Hello, my name is Umar Hamdani, and I want to tell you about Middle English literature period. Okay, let's start our material. Before we start learning about English literature, Middle English literature period, uh, it's better we have to study about history. The story of the Middle Start period around 1150 until 1400 that started dead Edward. From the Confessor descendants King from Wessex at 1066. During 20 years in this period, nothing have to change in the word literature word, but there are some change in the English or the England. Next, the War on Middle English Literature era. On last September 1066, the King Norwegia force attacked England force from the north beach but can step back by Harold troops. Several weeks later, happened the war again. In the war, William troops again. In the war, troops win for war again and defeat England and Harold dead in the war. At 1189 until 1199, happened to Salib War from England, the one with character by Richard his lifetime, with the problem case of government. Change of throne. After leaving William at 1087 until 1100, Harry acceded to the throne to be King William Ruttus at 1100 until 1135, with King throne. Many accidents vague, one of which is increased public as well as culture England public. So in this period, English literature is there is no change in literature word, but there is so many incident effect for culture England public. Next, characteristic author of literature. Poetry. Poetry creation at middle period mostly big shaped romantic, for example. Poetry creation in middle era, that is the Carson de Roland from French material, the Knight of the Round Tables from England material. Prose. Prose creation at middle period, for example, the Historia Recum karangan Geoffrey Mon and Mouth, and still many more. Drama creation at middle period have two creation, for example, miracles as tell life a holy people and mysterious get them's angel books, and this drama is depend on a religious on this period. Next is the feature of Middle English literature. The first is impersonality. Impersonality, one of the most important characteristics of Middle English literature is impersonality, by which I mean that most of its literature was anonymous and we don't know the name of those who wrote it. The reason is partly that then people were interested in the poem rather than in the plot. The medieval author was at a disadvantage compared with popular writers today in having no publisher interested in keeping his name before the public. Okay, the next is derived stories. Originality was not a major requirement of medieval authors. Story material, in particular, was looked upon as communal property in the nation if intellectual property didn't yet exist. To have based one's work on an old, authorized source was a virtue. It led Geoffrey of Monmouth and other great writers to claim such a source when none exists. It is not surprising that this attitude raised translation to the level of original creation. The third is religiosity. Religion occupies an important place in Middle English literature as it was an important element of social life in medieval age. It is said that then men and women looked upon religion as means to the next level. They lived in constant fear of hell and its torment and were fatally concerned with the salvation of their souls. That's why religious writing forms a greater part of Middle English literature. The fourth is oral quality. Another important characteristic of Middle English literature is oral quality. Most of the Middle English literature was meant to be listened to rather than read. As there were no printing facilities in these days, most of the literature was memorized. People used to memorize and retell poems or story instead of reading. One of the things that hindered the spread of literature among the general public was the infallibility of books, which were so expensive that common people couldn't afford to buy them. The fifth is courtly love. Gus Paris was the first person to popularize the phrase courtly love, which is a code of behavior that determined the relationship between aristocratic lovers in Western Europe. During the Middle Age, there were rules and requirements for love, elaborated upon in Ars Amatoria, the art of loving by Ovid, the Roman poet. And then the next is the chivalry. Chivalry is a prominent feature of Middle English literature. The term came to mean the gallantry of honor expected of knight and a general sense of courtesy. Middle English poetry is mostly concerned with heroic deeds of knights. The next is romance. Romance is another important characteristic of Middle English literature. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, King Orn, Athelstan, Gamelin, Sir Arthur are best example of medieval romance. The last is infra-literary. One must say a word here about the artistic quality of medieval literature, and we must admit that, judged by modern standards, much of medieval literature, continental as well as English, is infra-literary. This doesn't mean that there are no great works of the imagination in the Middle Age. There are some, but poems like Divine Comedy are rare in any age. Okay. Next, literature creation period of Middle Century. The first period, many influenced by French culture young and following many expedition in war, 100 years in France. The second period is culture influenced by Italian culture and culture king message in diplomatic frame. The last is third period. In this period called English period because on culture success to escape and impact from foreign and English produced creation be good and beautiful. Only that for me and so sorry about the mistake. The last I say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.